protocol.
Happy 90th birthday, Colonel John F. Jack Graham. Your birthday is in December, close to Pearl Harbor Day, which is a very important day for you. But we plan to visit you at your quarters, but thanks to the COVID protocols and other problems, that did not work out. So we're gathered here today to make a video of memories we have a group gathered here to form some memories of your past. All the people that are gathered here, they're all members of the Defense Mapping Agency in the years past. We have attending here is I'm running out. I wanted to mention the fact that we're gathered here 6 months later after your 90th birthday at Caruso's with a group of your colleagues that here in May of 2022. We want to cover This Is Your Life, and we want to address like 3 phases. First, your involvement. The first 2 would be your involvement in Southeast Asia, and the third is your activity with the Army Reserves. We're talking about. So gathered here are 6 individuals that can have memories from your past. The first phase we'd like to have is talking about your youth in China. Pat Reed, who with a serendipitous event at a garage sale, discovered your story in a book. And he also has many other sources to reflect on your youth in China. Then we would have Bill Hybreder and Ed Della Pena talk about your involvement in the Southeast Asia and the Vietnam conflict, where you, in around 1970, delivered the initial version of what became to be known as the analytical point position system and the point positioning database. And then finally we'd like to have Bob Pennycook will talk about your relationships with him and at DMA and also in the Army Reserves. So with that, why don't we listen to Pat Reed's gathering of information about your youth in Southeast Asia and China. So here's Pat Reed.
Gets up. Hi, I'm Pat Reed. I used to work at ACIC, DMA, and so forth, the predecessors of NGA as it's known today. Dave, you just spoke or listened to, and I started work in 1962 together. And while working in the computer area in the 60s and 70s, I got to know Jack Graham because he worked on a lot of different technical projects like what they called was the PPDB, was the point positioning database, and interface into helping Vietnam soldiers find target locations better. So outside of that minimal knowledge gained that way, I knew very little of Jack. I didn't know him that well. So I was surprised in February 1998, I saw a Post-Dispatch article about Jack titled, "Oakville Man Recalls Life as a Child Prisoner of War." So it chronicled his memories as a child being a prisoner of the Japanese in China during World War II, 41 to 45. His memories recalled having very little food, very low quality, once a week a brief shower, very restricted activities, and little or no contact with his parents, who were in a different part of China acting as a missionary. So I was surprised to read all these facts in this article, because I'd never heard anything about Jack's early life. So a few years later, I visited a garage sale, and I spotted a book titled St. Louis Sports Folks. And I like both books and sports, so I had to buy the book. And the page I opened it up to, there was a heading of a story titled Jack Graham and His Chariots of Fire Hero. Well, I really had to buy it then. So the story shares the memories of Jack during the period of time he spent in the POW camp, where Eric Little was also imprisoned. So Eric was a 1924 Olympics track and field sprinter and was a central figure in the 1981 movie Chariots of Fire. Well, Jack experienced firsthand the actions of Eric, who, to all accounts, was a very wonderful man. He sacrificed much of his life and his activities to observe his religious beliefs. He would not actually run in a race that was going to be held on a Sunday. So he was favored in the 100-yard dash, but they scheduled it on a Sunday and he would not do that. So he skipped that race and he ran some other races which he really didn't have much experience in, but he did get a gold medal and set a world record. So he was a mentor and a teacher and an advisor and a friend of the children of the camp, and all the other children knew him as Uncle Eric. While all the other male adults, they called him Mr., but they considered him to be an uncle. So I gained a better understanding of Jack's early life and a much greater appreciation what it took to survive a prisoner of war camp. It was a terrible experience. But were it not for the fortunate circumstances of noticing a newspaper article and finding a wonderful book at a garage sale, I'd never have gained this knowledge. So in 1984, Jack worked at the Defense Mapping Agency, and the movie of Chariots of Fire had been released a couple of years earlier, and people began to realize that he had a connection to that. So he wrote up a summary of his experience with Little and the story of Little's Olympic success. And even though he was not considered a winner or a contender in this one race, he did win, and like I said, won the gold medal and set a world's record. So his religious beliefs held him back from competing, and he would not waver from these commitments. So Jack has led an interesting and varied life, from being a prisoner of war survivor, a military officer experience. He was a key player in implementing, as you'll hear more about, implementing and deploying a targeting system for the Vietnam conflict. And he's ended up being an upstanding citizen whose life should be celebrated by all who've known him. Thank you.
Show him the book.
It's a good book.
Show him the title.
Yeah. St. Louis Sports Folks.
Very good.
And I opened it up, and on page, the 15th article is Jack Graham. Yeah. I saw that and I said, well, I've got to buy this. Thank you.
In 1970, Jack and a fellow named Don Fox, who's since passed on, delivered that. But then there were individuals that followed him, providing technical services to the troops that was using that system. And the Ed Delapenu worked in the base plant of developing that system, but Bill Hybreder was one of the individuals that traveled to South Vietnam to provide technical help. So with that, we have either Ed or Bill talk about the development of that system and the experience of working in Southeast Asia to provide technical help.
Okay.
Jack, happy birthday. I hope you've had a delightful 90th birthday. This is a little late. My involvement with Southeast Asia and the point positional database started actually as part of the triangulation element that put together the very first digital PPDB that was sent to Southeast Asia to provide point and information for the Air Force basically, but for everybody over there in theater to use point positioning processes that were in theater rather than sending information back to St. Louis to have them verified or validated. And it solved a massive number of problems. You and Don Fox went over and you briefed several people on this database, how it would be used, and that people would be there to use the database that actually knew the people in St. Louis so they could get back if there were any problems. I ended up with a 3-month tour in 1972 and 1970, and in 72 and 73 a 4-month tour at NKP, Nakhon Phanom. It was a fabulous experience. I got to travel all over the Southeast Asia area, from Tan Son Nhut to Takli to Korat to Utapao, everywhere in that area, including my base, which was NKP. NKP was a very nice place to work. We supported something called Task Force Alpha. They were directed to drop plastic trees with microphones in them down valleys where the Viet Cong might be very advantageous, to say the least. And our support was to position those after they left the plane with camera systems that were specifically designed to catch where those little microphones ended up. It created a very, very vast amount of information, to say the very least. Another thing that happened in NKP that was very good, and part of your process of setting this up and distributing it throughout the Air Force, was the support given to search and rescue operations all over. NKP, in its later years, became a very nice base for the prop-driven, very heavy planes that did search and rescue all over the area up there, up north at NKP and around in Laos, etc., etc. And I can still remember the person coming in one night and saying, "It's dusk, I don't know what the status is, but my fellow pilot just got shot down. We know exactly where he is, and we have to make a determination whether we have to go in and get him tonight or we can wait until tomorrow." And they came to me and said, "Tell us." And I said, "Well, he's 4 miles from any activity that we see on the photographs. He's got a 1,500-foot bluff that we haven't seen penetrated. I think he's going to be safe for the night." And they went out the next morning and made the rescue without any problems whatsoever. Those are the kinds of things, that database that you got into the Vietnam era created, and they provided many life-saving opportunities. That's basically all I have. We can thank you very much for all the work you did. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ed.